In the heart of Chicago, a billionaire mother hides her pain behind luxury. Her little daughter, trapped in a wheelchair, has forgotten what hope feels like. But one ordinary mechanic, with nothing but kindness in his hands, steps into their world and changes everything. A story of love, faith, and miracles. Where money fails, but humanity wins. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now, let's get started. Morning sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows of Olivia Parker's penthouse, illuminating the pristine white floors and the quiet stillness that filled the air. Despite the luxury surrounding her, Olivia sat at the edge of the couch, her gaze fixed on her daughter, Lily. The little girl, only 8 years old, was struggling to adjust her damaged wheelchair. The wheels squeaked sharply with every push, and Olivia's heart tightened at the sound. Her fortune could buy anything, except the simple ability for her daughter to walk freely. For a moment, the silence felt heavier than all the money she owned. That afternoon, Olivia decided to take Lily out for some fresh air. Her chauffeur prepared the sleek black Rolls-Royce, and security followed discreetly as they reached the city streets of Chicago. The sidewalks were filled with people rushing through life, unaware of the quiet ache behind the tinted car windows. As the driver helped lower Lily's wheelchair, one of the front wheels suddenly snapped. Lily gasped in surprise, and the chair tilted dangerously. Olivia rushed forward, her heart pounding, holding her daughter tightly before the fall could happen. The bodyguards hurried to assess the damage, but none knew what to do. One suggested calling a company technician, but Olivia could already imagine the long wait and the sterile, emotionless service. Lily looked down, embarrassed, as pedestrians glanced their way. "It's okay, sweetheart," Olivia whispered, trying to sound calm, though frustration welled inside her. That's when a dusty pickup truck stopped nearby. A tall man in an old denim jacket and work boots stepped out, wiping his hands with a rag. His name, stitched on his uniform, read Ethan Miller, a local mechanic. Ethan noticed the wheelchair and approached quietly. "Looks like you could use a hand," he said in a gentle tone. The bodyguards blocked him at first, their suspicion clear, but Olivia stopped them. Something in Ethan's eyes, sincere, grounded, made her trust him instantly. He knelt down beside the chair, examining the bent frame and cracked wheel. "This isn't too bad," he murmured, pulling a small toolkit from his truck. Lily watched curiously, her fear fading into wonder as Ethan worked with calm confidence. Each movement showed care, not pity. Olivia stood nearby, arms folded but eyes softening as she watched. The sun reflected off Ethan's hands as he tightened a screw and adjusted the axle. He spoke to Lily as he worked, making small jokes about machines and how even wheels get tired of the city traffic. Lily giggled faintly, something Olivia hadn't heard in days. Within minutes, the chair was standing steady again. Ethan spun the wheel once, testing it, then smiled. "Good as new. Just be gentle with her for a bit." The little girl's face lit up like morning light breaking through clouds. Olivia stepped closer, her heart swelling with gratitude. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, reaching for her purse. Ethan shook his head, tucking his tools away. "You don't owe me anything, ma'am." "Every kid deserves to move freely," he said with a quiet smile. The simplicity of his words disarmed her. For someone who lived in a world where everything had a price, this small act of kindness felt foreign. She looked at him again, trying to understand how someone with so little could give so much. Before she could speak, Lily reached out her small hand toward Ethan. "Thank you," she said softly. Ethan crouched down to her level, smiling. "You're welcome, champ. You keep rolling strong, okay?" For a moment, the noise of the city faded, the horns, the chatter, the rush. All that remained was a mechanic, a mother and a child, connected by something deeper than words. Olivia blinked back, the tears threatening to form. It wasn't pity. It was humility, something she hadn't felt in a long time. As Ethan packed his things, Olivia noticed the grease stains on his jacket and the tiredness in his face. He wasn't rich, but there was a kind of peace about him she envied. She asked, "Do you have a shop nearby?" He nodded. "Miller's Auto, just 2 blocks down. Small place, but we fix almost everything." Olivia smiled faintly. Even hearts, she said jokingly. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. Only the broken ones that can be welded. The exchange made her laugh softly, something she hadn't done with a stranger in years. When Ethan drove away, Olivia stood beside the repaired wheelchair, her hand still resting on the handle. Lily was smiling, really smiling, as the wind brushed against her face. "He's nice, Mummy," she said. Olivia nodded slowly, her throat tight. "Yes, he is." That night, back in the penthouse, she couldn't stop thinking about the mechanic. She'd met countless businessmen, investors, and socialites, but none had looked at her daughter with that kind of honest care. There was no agenda, no interest in her wealth, just kindness. Before bed, Olivia kissed Lily goodnight and glanced once more at the repaired chair by the window. It stood as a symbol of something she hadn't felt in years: hope. The city lights shimmered below, a million artificial stars trying to outshine the real thing. She whispered to herself, maybe some angels wear overalls. As she turned off the lamp, she made a quiet decision. Tomorrow, she would visit that small auto shop and thank Ethan properly. She didn't know it yet, but that single visit would change all of their lives forever. The next morning, Olivia woke earlier than usual. She couldn't stop thinking about the humble mechanic who had repaired Lily's wheelchair with nothing more than sincerity and skill. In her world of designer suits and high-profile meetings, people rarely did anything without expecting something in return. But Ethan had been different, calm, genuine, and content with gratitude alone. She made up her mind to visit him personally. After dropping Lily at her therapy session, Olivia instructed her driver to take her to Miller's Auto. The thought of stepping into a greasy workshop felt strange for someone who lived in spotless luxury. When the car stopped in front of a small, old garage on a quiet street, Olivia hesitated for a moment. The sign above the door read Miller's Auto, honest repairs, fair prices. It was modest, almost worn out, yet something about it felt warm. She stepped out, her heels clicking against the cracked pavement. The scent of oil and metal filled the air. Inside, Ethan was bent over an engine, sleeves rolled up, humming softly to himself. When he looked up and saw her standing there in her crisp white coat, his surprise was visible but polite. "Mrs. Parker?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. Olivia smiled faintly. "You remembered?" He nodded. "Hard to forget a mother who loves her daughter that much." His words softened the tension between them. Olivia glanced around the small shop. Tools neatly arranged, a few half-repaired cars, and an old radio playing country music in the background. It wasn't glamorous, but it was full of life. "I just came to thank you properly," she said, setting a small envelope on the counter. "For helping Lily." Ethan shook his head before even looking inside. "I told you before, I don't want money for that," he said gently. "Helping her made my day." Olivia hesitated, slightly embarrassed. "I understand, but this is just a gesture." Ethan pushed the envelope back toward her. "Ma'am, sometimes doing the right thing is enough reward." For a moment, Olivia didn't know how to respond. In her world, value was measured in checks and contracts, not kindness. She looked at him, realizing how rare such sincerity had become. "Then at least let me buy you coffee," she said, smiling. Ethan chuckled softly. "Deal, but I'm paying next time." They sat at a small cafe near the workshop, where the hum of city traffic faded behind the sound of conversation and clinking cups. Olivia asked him about his life, and Ethan told her how he'd inherited the garage from his father. He spoke of hard work, long nights, and dreams of building something meaningful. When he mentioned losing his younger sister to a car accident years ago, Olivia saw a shadow cross his face. "She used a wheelchair for a while," he admitted quietly. "And that's probably why I couldn't walk past your daughter that day." The sincerity in his voice shook her deeply. As the days passed, Olivia found herself visiting Miller's Auto more often. Sometimes she brought coffee, sometimes lunch, and sometimes just conversation. Ethan would teach Lily little things about mechanics, how engines breathe, how gears cooperate like friends. Lily loved it, her laughter echoing through the small shop. It was the first time in years Olivia had seen her daughter that happy. One afternoon, While adjusting a metal frame, Ethan said softly, "I've been working on something special for her." Olivia raised a brow, curious. "For Lily?" He nodded, eyes gleaming. "A walking assist frame. Nothing fancy, just something that might help her take a few steps." Olivia stared at him, stunned. "You're building that from scratch?" Ethan smiled, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I had some leftover materials from an old robotics project. I figured, why not?" She didn't know what to say. The world's best doctors and engineers had told her Lily's chances were slim, yet this man, this ordinary mechanic, was trying anyway. "Why would you do all this?" she finally asked. Ethan paused, looking at the small, half-built frame on his workbench. "Because I saw the way she looked at life. She hasn't given up yet. So why should anyone else?" Olivia's throat tightened, emotion threatening to spill over. She had spent years fighting battles with money, hoping it could heal wounds that love should have. Watching Ethan work reminded her that humanity still existed, hidden in small corners of the world. That evening, she invited him to her home for dinner. Ethan hesitated but eventually agreed. When he arrived wearing his cleanest shirt, he looked around in awe at the mansion's marble floors and chandeliers. "You live in a different universe," he said quietly. Olivia laughed softly. "Maybe, but I think your world feels more real than mine." Dinner was surprisingly warm and easy. Lily showed Ethan her favorite toys and drawings, while Olivia watched them bond like old friends. The air felt lighter, filled with a comfort that wealth had never brought. Later, as Ethan left, he said, "If all goes well, I'll bring the frame next week." Olivia smiled, her heart full. "We'll be waiting." That night she stood by Lily's bed, watching her sleep peacefully. For the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt possible. She whispered to herself, "Maybe this is what miracles look like before they happen." Over the next few days, Olivia found herself counting the hours until Ethan's return. When she wasn't at meetings, her thoughts wandered to the small garage and the kind man inside it. It wasn't just gratitude anymore. It was something deeper, something unfamiliar. Each act of kindness, each laugh shared with Lily, had started mending the invisible cracks in her heart. And though she didn't fully understand it yet, Ethan had already become more than just a mechanic to her. He had become the reminder that compassion still had the power to rebuild broken lives, one small act at a time. A week later, the autumn wind carried a soft chill through Chicago's streets as Olivia and Lily waited outside their home. The driveway was lined with golden leaves, rustling gently beneath the tires of a familiar truck pulling up. Ethan stepped out, carrying a covered object in his hands, his expression calm but excited. "Morning, ladies," he greeted with a grin. Lily's eyes widened with anticipation. "Is that it?" she asked eagerly. Ethan nodded, uncovering the metal frame. It gleamed in the sunlight, carefully crafted with tiny sensors and adjustable supports, built from recycled parts and endless hours of patience. Olivia could hardly speak as she took in the sight. It wasn't just a machine. It was a gift of heart and faith. "You really made this yourself?" she whispered. Ethan smiled modestly. "I had some help from an old friend at the robotics lab, but most of it came from the shop." "She's stronger than she looks." He knelt beside Lily and began adjusting the straps. His rough hands moved gently, ensuring every buckle fit perfectly around her small legs. Olivia stood silently, watching every movement as hope returned to her daughter's eyes. The moment of truth arrived. Ethan looked up at Olivia. "She'll need your support beside her," he said softly. Olivia stepped forward, kneeling next to Lily. "Ready, sweetheart?" Lily nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the handles on the device. The air seemed to hold its breath. Slowly, Ethan pressed a small button on the frame. The mechanical joints hummed softly, and the braces lifted Lily upright. Her legs shook under the unfamiliar pressure, but she didn't fall. Olivia's eyes filled with tears as her daughter stood on her feet for the first time in years. "Take your time," Ethan encouraged gently. "Don't rush. Just trust yourself." Lily looked from him to her mother, who nodded with trembling lips. Step by step, the little girl moved forward. Her knees wobbled, but the frame supported her weight, steady and kind. A small laugh escaped her lips, pure and bright. "Mommy, I'm walking!" she cried out. Olivia's vision blurred completely as tears streamed down her face. She reached out instinctively, holding Lily's hand but letting her lead. Each step was a miracle, and the moment felt like the whole world had stopped just to witness it. Nearby, a small crowd began to gather, neighbors, staff, and even a few reporters who had noticed the unusual scene outside the mansion gates. Cameras clicked softly, but Olivia didn't care about them. All she saw was her daughter, glowing with pride and courage. Ethan stayed in the background, quietly watching, his lips curling into a humble smile. When Lily finally reached her mother and fell into her arms, the world seemed to shatter into joy. Olivia hugged her tightly, whispering, "You did it, baby. You really did it." Her voice broke, heavy with love and disbelief. When Olivia looked up, she saw Ethan standing a few feet away, wiping his hands on his jeans, his expression humble as ever. She walked toward him and, without hesitation, threw her arms around him. "You didn't just fix her legs," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You fixed my heart." Ethan froze, overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. "I just helped a little," he murmured. Olivia shook her head. "No, Ethan, you gave her something even money couldn't buy, hope." Reporters captured the embrace, but it wasn't for show. It was real, raw gratitude between two souls who had changed each other. Later that evening, as the sun began to set, the three of them sat together in the backyard. Lily played nearby, testing her new device with small, careful steps. Olivia and Ethan watched in silence, the warm glow of the sky painting their faces gold. "You know," Ethan said softly, "when I lost my sister, I promised myself I'd help someone walk again someday. I never thought it would happen like this." Olivia looked at him, eyes glistening. "Maybe fate doesn't care how it happens, only that it does." For once, her heart felt light, free of loneliness and guilt. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan became a part of their lives. He visited often, not as a mechanic, but as a friend. Lily adored him, calling him Mr. Fix-It. Together they laughed, built small inventions, and even repaired her old wheelchair for fun. Olivia found herself smiling more than ever. The mansion that once felt cold now echoed with laughter. But beneath the joy, she felt something deeper stirring in her heart, feelings she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Ethan, humble and kind, had become her anchor in a world that once revolved around power and prestige. One night, after Lily had gone to bed, Olivia found Ethan in the garden fixing a small lamp. She handed him a cup of coffee, their fingers brushing briefly. The silence between them was peaceful, heavy with unspoken emotion. "You changed everything," she said quietly. Ethan looked up, his eyes soft. "No, Olivia. You just needed someone to remind you how strong you already are." She smiled through her tears, realizing how true that was. Their worlds had collided by accident. But now, standing there beneath the stars, it felt like destiny had planned it all along. Months later, a video of Lily's first steps went viral across social media, touching millions of hearts worldwide. Headlines read, "Billionaire's daughter walks again, thanks to a local mechanic's invention." People from across the country reached out, offering praise, funding, and partnerships for Ethan's idea. But to him, the greatest reward wasn't fame or money. It was seeing Lily run into her mother's arms every morning. Olivia, now smiling brighter than ever, knew her fortune had finally found purpose. She looked at Ethan one evening and said softly, "You didn't just change her life, Ethan. You changed mine too." Sometimes the richest hearts are found in the poorest hands. Ethan gave hope where money couldn't, and proved that kindness can build miracles. Lily walked again, not because of wealth, but because someone cared enough to try. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments, what did you feel watching this story? This is KindSoul Stories, where every heart finds a reason to believe again.